in all honesty, I'm not really looking forward to making this video. I don't feel like it. The things that I've wrote on this paper right now, just a quick glance, like that. It's interesting material to digest. But it's difficult to get a concept out of it. It's actually helpful. That's where I'm stuck right now. I want to get a concept out of it which helps it explain it. So actually let me at least start off with the introduction, and maybe while I'm explaining the introduction, things pop up in my head. So you can see this line, and the intention is that you wake up in the morning and the line goes all the way until you fall asleep, and in between there's a lot of noise. Things in life go very good and things in life can go very bad, and during a day it can vary a lot whether or not you feel super happy, super unlucky, or if you're in balance. And in balance I would mean just peace, satisfaction, whatever. I would almost say that's what I mean. I'm still trying to figure out what I make. Is the peak in this graph, is the peak actually meant to be where you want to go to? So is it a graph between 0 and 1, or 0% and 100%? Or is it a graph that aims to establish the middle ground, where middle ground would be peace, where the top would be emotionally positive and the bottom would be emotionally negative? I don't have an answer to it yet. There is something in here, because on a daily basis we are continuously being impulsed by a lot of things that are happening in our surroundings. Some things which we might not have any influence on and just overcome us, and other things that we do have an influence on and that get inside of our heads. For example, for the first thing, it would be someone would happen to get involved in an accident. Well, you can't really do anything about it, but it does affect your mood. And the second thing is, let's say I would go for a run and I push myself too hard and I get injured, and then I would be angry at myself for being injured. But that's something that was actually totally on me, but that also affects my mood. So that's why I say it. And I think I get it. I get to the point right now. I think the whole thing is, on a daily basis you want to feel satisfied. At least I'm saying this with a little bit of caution, because I am just thinking of this theory and I haven't really tested it, or how should I say it, experienced it in my life, if it's really true or not. But I'm gonna go for it and try to figure out its concept and see if it actually yields anything for myself, but also for other people in life. Because yeah, like I said, on a day-to-day basis we get exposed to a lot of different things that affect our physical, mental being. So, and usually this chaos, while sometimes it's fun to live in chaos, it can be truly severely exhausting for your mental and physical being as well. So, alright, I think that was it for the first bit. I'm actually gonna materialize what I just said, because a lot of it just popped out of my mind without actually thinking about it. So let's actually work this kind of out. I don't know exactly why, but this thing that I just wrote down, it reminds me strongly of a principle that comes from physics. Somewhere where if the starting state No, I think it's modeling actually. Anyhow, it reminds me of something which is if the initial state is chaotic, the chaos that follows it is gonna be more extreme. Whereas if the initial situation is very modest, balanced, stable, then the things that come out of it tend to be more stable as well. I can consider this principle, and I wish I could attach a name to this principle so that I could look it up on the internet. But imagine this principle, and why it's so important is because today I started my day of overcoming one of my fears, and after that I felt satisfied. Which means that if this skill is like this satisfaction in the middle, and then like the other two ends are like being very emotionally influenced, whether that's negative or positive, that's a little bit unstable. So after I've felt this satisfaction after overcoming my own fear, I noticed that my body and my soul, they just didn't care about it a lot. I could just sit back, relax in my tent for honestly 30-40 minutes just thinking about absolutely nothing and feel like I wasn't wasting any second of my day. And that's interesting because yesterday was the complete opposite. I sat still and I was like, what is my task? What am I going to do? What do I need to do in order to fulfill, in order to feel fulfilled, in order to feel meaningful? And now it was the complete opposite. And I feel like it has something to do with like this noise that is sort of stirred by these impulses which create uncertainty, chaos, fear, doubt, stuff like that, and that gets you out of this stable balance in the middle, which is called this satisfaction, thankfulness, peace, whatever you want to attach to it. And I wrote down in the beginning, without thinking about how I would get to this point, like, why does it drift away so much? And I answered that one actually in the piece just before this one. And how do you live with it? How do you return to this balance in the middle? Because it's very difficult to, if the system becomes incredibly complex and keeps on drifting away from the middle, then it's very difficult to return back to it. So I still don't have an answer as to how to live with it, to cope with it. I just know that if you take out just one fear and you get the return of satisfaction, that it really does reduce the complexity, the amplitude of this emotional drifts to both the upside and both the up and the downside. I think this needs to be conceptualized again before I move on to the next point. So I was just getting a little bit off track. But I was thinking about like where to leave off, and I think where I left off were those two different things in the set. Like you have unforeseen consequences and you have forced consequences, forced occasions, things that you can hold yourself accountable for, that have an influence on your emotional well-being. So that's what I wrote down at this top here. So I'm reading this while I'm recording. So those top things, they cause daily imbalances. Now I get it. And I was like, then I was talking about this physical principle. Like, if you start with a stable system, your results become more stable. And if you start with an unstable system, then your results will be very unstable. So then there is 3 methods how to deal with the noise. So to address the first question, like, and how do you live with it? So how would you address it? So for me, there are like, I think, 3 options. So the first one is the one I like the least, but it's sometimes necessary, and that's to actively tackle any uncertainty, fear of doubt. So that means if you know that you have this task in front of you, you're like, I don't want to do it, I don't like it, but you really feel like in your chest that you need to overcome this because there is almost no way to go around, then the best thing is to overcome it, and then you cut all of those peaks that are within the chaos of the day, and then the whole thing becomes a lot more bearable. The second thing is, and I like that one actually a whole lot, I think it's almost my favorite one, is to accept the deviations in life and just remain a little bit patient. So that doesn't always work like that. If you have a very stressful situation like I just explained, I would recommend just cutting it and addressing it. But sometimes you just have to feel like, for example, like me yesterday, I was a little bit freaked out because it was like, I don't have a purpose, I don't know what I'm going for, I don't know. So I started to do a lot of binge eating, as I usually do, and consume a lot of sugars, which I don't want to do, but it's just a coping mechanism, honestly. It's just another form of an addiction. And I can be very unhappy with that decision, and I can not feel good. But at such a point, the best thing for me would honestly be to just accept there is currently a lot of noise. Because I could anytime, of course, grab such a book, start writing and address issues, but at that certain point of time, there wasn't really any space, time to do it. Of course, it's an excuse, but if I have to do this reflection in a very chaotic city, in the city center, it just doesn't work for me. And the more I force myself into that, the more I start to worry about it, the more I start to just binge eat, and it doesn't solve anything. So at that point, it's like, it would be good to just take a step back and be like, okay, life sometimes has its uncertainties, doubts, and stressful moments, and just go through them, go with it. Just accept your body to just eat the things that it wants to eat. If it's not killing you, because it's not like the end of the world that I yesterday consumed some sugars. I mean, what on earth? No. So at that point, it's just best to be like, go with it and just be like, okay, I take it, I eat it a little bit, and I go on with the day. Tomorrow, let's focus on that. Let's prioritize other things in life to get better. And then the final point that I actually wrote down, that's what happened to me this morning, is pursue a rewarding side quest to cut out noise or soothe the mind. So what that means is, like yesterday, I wasn't thinking about stepping into the water and go swimming. Well, I didn't swim, but I stepped into the water. That was not on my mind at all. But this morning I woke up and I was like, yeah, don't really have anything to do in the night, like this feeling like I want to get into the water. Like, it wasn't ever a main quest, but I woke up with the feeling and I was like, yeah, but it's so uncomfortable. People are gonna see that I'm swimming and I don't know if I'm supposed to swim, I don't know if it's normal, and I don't know. I could come up with 1,000 reasons why it wasn't a good idea to step into the water. But after just like 10 to 15 minutes of convincing myself what's the worst that can happen, I eventually was like, okay, this spot seems good, I'm just gonna step into it, and yeah, okay, feels good, just do it. So I stepped into it and was like, oh, this feels actually quite good, and I got a little bit further in it and there was like this soil layer like a lot of organic material, and I think it was actually very thick, like almost such a layer, or even thicker than that. And I stepped onto it, and it just started to smash into the water, not with my entire body, but it sank in like that. And I was like, oh, okay. And then onto my belly, I was like underwater, and I was thinking like, like, oh, this is not nice. Like that was very, that was a very exciting feeling at that point. And I was like, because of the excitement, I was like, wow, it's such a stupid, silly thing, but it really just relieved me of a lot of stress, because it was like, so this was all I was so afraid for, and why I got on it, because I don't know. Yeah, now I've done it. Didn't swim. I still considered swimming, because I thought like that would be even more crazy. I was like, no, I feel quite good. And after that, like a lot of fears just disappeared, and it just overall tempered a lot of the noise without even having any relation to the stress that I experienced yesterday, for example. So I think that's kind of funny. And yeah, I think this is a good one. So here I have like this point below 1 and 2. It's like worry on worry induces greater uncertainty, whereas patience doesn't solve it but tempers the amplitude. So I already kind of explained it, but what I'm trying to again emphasize here is that if you want to force yourself into solving the problem, that creates worry on worry. And if you're already very worried, then the best solution is just accept that you're worried, so that it's sort of you become more self-appreciative and are like, okay, I can allow a mistake. So then the worry soothes a little bit, so that there will come another opportunity later in life where you can actually address it from a more calm situation. And then the third one I just explained. So I think those are the 3 main points that I wanted to get across as to ways how to live with the fact that we are always in a roller coaster full of emotional uncertainty, and how you can sometimes choose your tools to become a little bit more towards the middle, where you feel satisfied, peace, and thankful. I want to wrap it up with just one single last illustration before I end this video. Again, I drew that thing from the beginning, and I was like trying to sort of illustrate how every one of these 3 points has its own kind of benefits. So the first one is like cutting out the peaks to come more towards a sort of balanced middle, even though it still remains chaotic. The second one is then the patience, so that you just even it out a little bit more, so it becomes more stretched out. But the peaks can still be peaks. And then the third one, just the like go for something completely different, side quest to soothe your mind and get a reward out of it. I don't know why I drew it like that. I feel like it's a great way to also just cut off the peaks, and it does a little bit the same as the second one, I would say. And then the last message I would like to close off with: sometimes weathering the noise is essential. Again, it's essential because worry on worry induces more noise. And if you want to live with the noise, I don't think there is a way to absolutely get rid of the noise. Maybe if you do this for multiple years and neuroscientifically try to disentangle all of the fears and worries that you can potentially come across in your life, so that it becomes a reflex for you to remain patient in situations that are stressful rather than go with them, then maybe you don't need to live with it anymore. But I think for anyone who actually watches this video, I don't think that's the solution that's going to work out just now. And I just think it's a little bit better also to remain flexible to all of the uncertainty that can come across in your life. And I also like to live a little bit more that way, because at least I think if you try to cut out all the noise and try to make yourself robust to it, then eventually your life becomes a little bit numb. And I do like the impulses both to the upside and downside. I just wish that I can cope a little bit better with it, so that I don't have an entire day wasted just mentally exhausting myself of worry. So that was what I wanted to say. As always, I close off my video saying I'm not an expert on this. I have absolutely no background in psychology or anything whatsoever. I just do it based on, first, my own experience, second of all, my own research online a little bit by writing, thinking about certain topics. So yeah, I just hope that by sharing these stories I can provide something that people can pick out certain aspects of and apply it to their own life to improve it, make it better. And that's honestly all I'm striving for. And I think that summarizes everything perfectly well. So I want to thank you for watching this video. I hope it has served you well. Wish you all the best for the rest of your day. Cheers, peace out, and goodbye.